Well, hello and welcome to the Amaze 2022 Transformation Passport. You are in the port of call, Barriers to Transformation, and I am excited to be joined here by my first matey, Magic Mike Hruska, where we're going to be talking about one of the key aspects as we look to transformation is what are those barriers? What gets in our way? What are the things that maybe they're the holy pedestal that nobody addresses? And what can we do when we're talking about change? Because as we know, with anything, it's always about that aspect. What does this change for me? So what are some creative ways that we can not only call a spade and call out those pedestals that are in the way, but what can we do to proactively address those barriers to transformation? And with that, I am so excited to have Mike Hruska here to take us on a little bit of a magical journey.
I'm excited to be here, and I got to tell you, I love change, and I love magic, and I love technology. I've been fascinated about these things since I was a child. Change is such an interesting thing. It's difficult, and one of the fundamental things is why do we want to change? What do we need to change on? What are the outcomes that we're seeking? What are the problems that we see? And problems come from pro and blemos, meaning something thrown in front of us. And you hear in our language, we say things like, we'll get around this, we'll get over this, we'll get through this. But what we really need is the ability to think differently about thinking differently. And so Einstein said we can't use the same consciousness to solve a problem that created it. If we really dig into that, think about the underlying meaning, he's really saying in order to do differently, we need to think differently. And so I want to share with you some of the things that I've discovered at looking at the intersection between change and magic. Magic is an interesting thing. I'm sure you've experienced it some way in some point in your life. You go into a place, other people are there. There's the magician, there's this element of air and curiosity. Right in front of your eyes, things happen. Those things end up magically giving you a surprise, which leads to delight. It's that piece of surprise and delight that really brings magic into the world. And it's all the time. There's always surprise and there's always delight in magic because it's thought about and it's deliberately designed into it. Let's talk about change for a second. How many change experiences have you had in your life? How many times have things changed that you were surprised? Probably a whole bunch. How many times have things changed where you were absolutely delighted? Not nearly as many as there could be. So if we think about change and we want to really be deliberate about creating surprise and delight in our change, maybe we should take a look at magic. Now, one of the fundamental things in magic is trust. You're trusting the magician's not really going to saw your sister-in-law in half because she volunteered. You're trusting a lot of things. And so building trust is interesting, but deep down, and this is an interesting thing about magic, deep down that magician is lying to you. What you experience as magic, they know as deception. They know the secrets. They know what's behind the curtain, behind the scenes, in the box, and all of those things. So building trust is really important. Thinking about the behaviors and the elements of trust is critical if you're going to go down the journey towards thinking about magic. Now, there are principles in magic that magicians use to do things, and a common one that you may know of is something called stack the deck. Stack the deck is when you arrange the cards in an order that optimizes the outcome for you. This isn't a bad thing if you're stacking the deck in your favor and in your organization's favor, and you're doing the right thing to take care of people. So I want to help you stack your deck a little bit. This is what I call the magic maker mindset. So there are a lot of things that are esoteric. I'm not giving away any secrets about how magic is created in the magic community, but I want to give you some secrets about how magic is thought about and how you can create magic in your change world. So first, it's an awareness framework. It thinks about the full spectrum of context and awareness, just like a magician would. Every angle and every approach and every thought that's there. If you're familiar with design thinking, it's like design thinking on the fly. If you're a maker and you grew up hacking things and putting pieces together and building things, it's also maker thinking. But it really explores a new alternative mindset because we often think that's possible and that is not possible. In the magic maker mindset, you look at things that are not possible yet And how do we arrange the things in an intelligent manner to bring those to light? It's nonlinear. You got to think on your feet. If you've ever seen the pickpocket Apollo Robbins, he's an unbelievable, recognized world performer. And boy, he can work a nonlinear dynamic thing to steal anyone's wallet. And it's quite amazing. But it's really about focusing on the effect in magic. And I want to teach you about some of those. Some of this might even call it hacker thinking, but really you're working the problem along the way. So the Magic Maker mindset essentially is a set of thinking frames for a set of lenses that you might put on to evaluate the world. You could certainly draw this. You could certainly put this on the wall. And there are ways to think about this. But at the core, there's an outcome that we are seeking that is not possible yet. But if we lay the groundwork and we do the right things, we do our get readies and stack some of the other principles in our favor, then we can possibly achieve that outcome. And surrounding that outcome, on our sides are what are the problems and what are the solutions to those problems? Working with ourselves, our creativity, our teams, and co-creating futures is really about laying the groundwork for the outcome and working the problem and the solution side of this back and forth continually. And that's what moves us down the tunnel of that shared journey towards the surprise and delight of some positive change. The other things, it's kind of digging deeper into magic. There are magic effects, and those magic effects have climaxes. I've sawn Liz in half, now I put it together, and now she's smiling and she's happy and she's not wounded. So let's take a look at these effects. In magic, you can think about a few things. One, magicians make things vanish. In an organization, you might have something that you need to make vanish along the way, and there are devices that you can use to do that. Magicians produce things, something from nothing. Well, in a lot of ways, a lot of the things that we're challenged to do in the future, we need to do production of something that just doesn't exist. Another effect to consider is restoration. Sometimes things get ripped up and broken. We need the magic of a restoration effect to put them back together. And escape. If you think back, there was a point in time where BlackBerry really started to need to do the escape move along the way. These are challenges for all organizations. Another, transformation, one thing into another. We need to be able to take what is and make it into something that we don't know if it's even possible, but we're going to try to do that. Teleportation. I'm at one point, and we just need to quickly move to beyond a line extension in our innovation. We need to teleport to the future to see what we would tell ourselves around the corner and then come back and tell ourselves, which is also the art of prediction in some ways. So these magic effects kind of overlay any type of transformation that you're thinking about on your outcome line. Digging into another space, the military has military doctrine to help think through planning something called effects-based operations. So it's a process for obtaining a desired strategic outcome on the enemy. We're not fighting enemies. We need a much softer and better worldview of this. So I'd like to reframe it and say, desired strategic outcome, effect on the organization, synergistic and cumulative application of the full range of non-military capabilities. We don't want to hurt people. We want to wrap people with love and give them surprise and delight. So effects-based thinking, what we can draw out of that is we've got to focus on the predetermined ultimate effects that are there. The activities we're going to do are based on those target effects, but other things in the world are going to happen at the same time. And we need to be able to shape our activities. And future activities will be based upon the effects that we create and the effects that come in. So effects-based thinking gives you that thinking on your feet, your situational awareness along the way. Digging back into this, the other really important thing to consider is the who. We have a massive landscape of people that might be associated with change. And we want them all to cheer and jeer, at the end. We want everyone to be absolutely happy. But if you think about it, in these networks, there's something called trust. And there's really a topology of trust in any network in an organization. So considering how people are connected, what the trust landscape looks like, and being able to understand that and build additional trust where trust already exists is something to think about. If you've ever been to a hypnosis show, what do? You're in the audience as they put your hands together. Tell me if you can't pull your fingers apart. I just found, as a stage hypnotist, I just found out a bunch of people that kind of trust me and will believe whatever I say. Come on up on stage, let me make you do some crazy stuff. That's what magic does. Magic brings people together. Magic builds trust, and magic takes people on a shared experience along the way. You can think about this mathematically too, but that's another time and another subject. The other thing to consider is what's happening when and why, and what are the thoughts, what's the experience along the way? Because our attention follows our intention. If I'm gonna buy a Volkswagen, I will see Volkswagens everywhere all the time. It's interesting how that works. This is some work from Dave Gray, and it's called Liminal Thinking. It's fantastic when thinking about experience and beliefs, because I can't just say, stop eating potato chips, just eat kale chips. I can't change your belief that way. The experience is what changes your belief. I believe that someone can be sawed in half and put back together. I believe that Liz can draw a picture, and I can tell you what picture it is without me seeing it. Those are experiences. So our experiences that we have drive our attention. That attention helps us to develop theories. On top of those theories, we develop judgments, and that's how we form beliefs. So when thinking about sliding down our outcome path towards future change, being a possibilitarian, and thinking about what's not possible yet to make it, it's the trust and the experiences that we give people through this. And this is another reason that we want to look at magic. So I want to talk about metaphor. I had the opportunity to work with Lindsay Zaltman. He's the author of something called Marketing Metaphoria, and realized that his work in the 7 deep metaphors, balance, container, control, connection, journey, resource, and transformation, was really interesting, in that any magic that happens kind of violates one or more of these things. I can't balance an elephant on my finger. I can't pour 5 gallons of water out of a thimble. All of the things that happen in magic violate these metaphors. His work was in understanding that these are deep cross-cultural metaphors. If you learn to ride a bike in Vietnam or Waco, Texas, you're still dealing with the same gravity. It doesn't matter. If someone can ride a bike and do some crazy things that you've never seen, that might actually be magical in some ways. So in any system, there are 1 or more of these 7 deep metaphors, and it's evidenced through the language that people use in the system. I'll give you an example. In 2008, in the learning and development practice, we talked about the LMS, and we talked about the SCORM package, or the e-learning courseware, the package. We were really anchored on 2 things with that language. 1, container. The LMS, it's the container. We take all of the resources and we put them in the container, and that was a big part of learning. Now, if you look at the language that has changed since that period of time, we start to hear things about learning pathways and other types of resources and connections. And so really learning and development has moved away from container and resource metaphors, and they've moved towards connected journey in some way. And so it's interesting because you can see that. But if you're deliberate and say, what are the anchor metaphors that we are stuck on in our organization? Are we stuck on transformation? Some people might be stuck on transformation, but transformation without some kind of purpose, transformation as an aspirational metaphor, is just one thing. There's probably more there. So thinking about what's your anchor metaphor, understanding the language, thinking about these, and considering we want to move to be a balanced journey, or whatever it might be, will give you a thinking frame that you can really start to develop new language along the way. So these are the elements of the change maker mindset. And there are many, many types of tools, principles, methodologies, and thinking frames that will map to 1 or more of these. So to tie this back into magic, there's something that happens in magic that's really great. You walk in and the magician has set the stage. And we know that setting the stage is one phase, and that it ultimately leads to surprise and to delight. But along the way, we have to set the context. We have to understand the nature of the audience. We have to be able to set the stage, but we have to understand the context and be able to set the context. Stage is set there, but having the guillotine wheeled out there, ooh, or having the ambulance outside waiting, or other, oh, that sets a lot of context. You can set context directly and then indirectly along the way. We have to suspend disbelief. We have to build on our trust networks of people and make it known that we don't know if we're going to get there, but we're in this together and we're going to take this shared journey, and we're going to be deliberate and specific about the work that we do to create surprise and delight. Because if we do those things, we will create a magical experience. And this is just a quick look into the Magic Maker mindset. I want you to think about it as an overlay, a way to look at the world, baseline of our outcome and our problem and our solution, and the cycle of working that. Thinking about the topology of trust, thinking about the experiences that drive attention, that drive theories and judgments and beliefs, considering that we do want to have an effect, and it might be to produce something or to vanish something or to restore something, and considering the metaphors. This gives us an outward frame that we can really use other tools too. So what are you going to change? I just say, just freaking do it. Magic will help you.
I love it. So I'm going to be clapping for all of the virtual attendees as to this primer as to the Magic Maker mindset. So thank you so much, Mike, because I think so many of those things around how do we open that door to the different worlds, looking at the topography, looking at the language that we use, looking at just even understanding the context in which our people are finding themselves, to say, how can we use this framework of seeing the world to approach things in a way that takes us into account so that we can actually lead to the surprise and delight. How have you, just to give our folks who are going to be taking part on the February 24th Barriers to Transformation Do It to Learn It experience, where we're going to be doing these things, how have you in your practice used magic, kind of transferring your spaces of, your hobby into practice as an innovation coach and an innovation leader?
I have been using this in everything. I'll say some or all elements, everything from community development projects, nonprofit governance and development, changes in thinking at the local and regional levels to, to a framework for innovation in product development and coaching and transformation, all of those things. The cool thing is it's a mindset. And you can plug in as many tools as you want. You don't have to be the wizard. You can be the kid that knows 5 card tricks, but still that's magic, right? And that's, I'm the kid that knew 3 card tricks, and it was great. It was lovely. And it made people have fun and be entertained. Change magic is the same way. Once you start building the Magic Maker mindset and you start mapping in, you're just going to increase the fidelity and utility and then the speed of doing it too.
I love it. Well, and I think the aspect of fidelity and speed of how you do it, it's how are you picking the people up in that approach to bring them along, and not just say, well, this is what's happening, blah, and we're going out, but to say, how are we helping through that experience and taking the perceptions and the situations as full on face value, and how can we approach them through this, through leveraging the Magic Maker mindset to then get to that, what we've oftentimes talked about in terms of growth mindset or a learning culture. It's the power of yet, and that power of possibilities. So this is a great way to introduce how are we thinking about the possibilities rather than thinking of the fear and threat, which limit the imagination as well as the ability to entertain what can this change mean for me in positive.
Yeah, there's 2 key things. So there's a principle in magic known as a confederate. It's the
Mhm.
person that's in on something that no one else knows is in on it. So it's the person that the magician gets blindfolded and someone hides something in the theater and this person guides them and he found it. That person might be in on it. I'm just saying. Building confederates, people that are in on the change, building your confederate network
Yeah.
of possibilitarians, people that say,
Yes.
if
Mhm.
what if what is going on right now could be something different? What if what is won't be in the future? What will
Mm.
be? And asking those possibilitarian questions, but building that you can think about it like a gang of elves for change making.
I'm
Everybody's
gonna
got
be,
their own little magic they can sprinkle in.
yep, exactly. Okay, I'm gonna have to write down that word because again, it's those language of the possibilitarians.
Possibilitarians,
I love it.
possibilitarianism.
See, this is language matters. And one of those things is how can we reframe and use the different words that how we anchor and how we create the possibilities of language and also roles as we go through these transformations and these changes so that the barriers of the past won't be the barriers of the future.
I love it.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, with that, thank you so much, Mike. This was awesome. Really appreciated it. Great primer and great stage setting for anyone who's thinking about transformational change and looking at what can we do to address. And it's a direct lead into the February 24th. You can register via Eventbrite or via transformingtalent.co, also transformingtalent.de. And we look forward to going through a do it to learn it experience. So Mike has talked through a lot of these different aspects and we're going to say, okay, what does it really feel like? How do we do it to learn it? So with that, we are looking forward to seeing you on the next station and the next port of call of our Amaze 2022 Transformation Passport. I'm Elizabeth Lembke, your Chief Talent Navigator, and thank you for attending. Thanks, Mike.